Guys, it's Rob again. In the last video that we had, we took a look at the different pieces of this XHTML page. What I'm going to do now is start talking through some of the things that you guys are going to need to be able to create to satisfy your assignment rules. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and talk about some types of text that we're going to put on the page, and we'll start with our old friend, the H1 tag. If you recall from the lecture the other day, there's actually 6 levels of header inside of HTML, H1 through H6. There's no H7 or higher than that, although people will sometimes try to use those on a page. The H1 tag is the top level header tag, and so it's the thing that search engines will use to index your page, for example. And so it should be the headline for your overall page, the most descriptive thing that you have here. So I'm just going to say something along the line of Rob Weir's website example for J4502. And then we can close that H1 here. And for headers, for paragraphs, for things like that, it makes the most sense, I think, for people to close those and open those on the same line. You can see that it's opened here and it's closed down here. You could also do something like this, but you don't see this type of code very often. It would work the same way. The internet would not care. It's just a little bit weird of a way to do code. So in H1 here, and then we can start writing some paragraph content here. If you guys remember, one of the things that you needed to do for the assignment was to write a joke. So you could write a couple of words of joke content here, or something that you think of as a joke, and that could be content that you would have in a couple of different paragraphs. So let's go ahead and save this at this point, since we've added the H1, edited this paragraph a little bit, added our joke. And when we save it, we'll notice a couple of things. I mentioned this in class, but one thing that you'll see is that up here, the name of your repository will turn this sort of orangish amber color. And so will whatever other page that you've changed in here. That's just telling you that these are pages that have had changes in them. The next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and fire up a browser so that I can make sure that whatever it is that I am looking at here is going to look correct in a browser. I'm actually going to pull up Firefox, the Firefox Developer Edition, to do this in, because I'm going to use the Developer Edition quite a bit in class. And to get this pulled up in the browser, what I'm going to do is right-click on the actual file that I'm working on, and I can go down to Show in File Manager and go ahead and see where this is in the Finder, and then drag it over into my browser that I'm going to be using here. Okay, when I do that, I'll see a couple of things. I have my H1 here. I have a couple of paragraphs of text. It is not styled. It's just the default browser style. And then I want to highlight this. This is the URL that this is currently existing at. It's a file path, and it's telling me that my file path is from my users folder to my user to my desktop to the folder that this is in to the name of the file. And these file paths are going to be important as we navigate through what we're doing here on the internet, and when we navigate through what we're going to be adding to our websites. I can add a image to this. If you recall in doing this in class the other day, I actually have an image already here in my folder. It's in my repository in my IMG folder, and it's called cat.jpg. It's this picture of a cat with a lime on its head. Let's go ahead and practice adding that image to my web page. So I'm going to go back to Atom, and I'm going to add this image right down below this paragraph. So I'm going to use the tag called IMG. And if you remember what we have to do here, we have to use the src attribute, and then when I autocomplete that over here in Atom, it will automatically give me the equal sign and the 2 quote marks. And I'm going to put in the path to that image. So again, the image is sitting here in my images folder. It's called cat.jpg. My IMG folder is at the same level here in this file structure as my index.html, so I can write in here img/ to tell it to go down a file level, and the name of my file, which is cat.jpg. Capitalization matters here and spelling matters here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add alt text to this. This is what would show up if the image weren't there or if somebody couldn't see the image. So I'm just going to say a picture of a cat with a lime on its head. And that's pretty descriptive, and then I need to end this tag here, because remember the images tag is one of those that gets closed right in the start tag because it doesn't contain any content. Even though it has an image associated with it, it's a little bit confusing. So img src equals the name of your file and the path here in the quote marks. And then we have the alt text equals, and then the alt text and quote marks. Make sure that these quote marks are balanced here and here, and then make sure that this ends here. Go ahead and save the page and go back over here to Firefox and refresh it, and what we'll see is that we now have a picture of a cat showing up here. Pretty straightforward and easy to do. Shouldn't be a big deal to do that. Next thing we're going to need to do for our assignment is actually to add in an a link to your email address. So this is actually going to be something that we're going to add before the image. So my image is on line 18, so up on line 17 I'll add a bracket and an A. And then I use the href attribute to give it a hypertext reference. That's what that stands for. And then inside my quote marks here, I'm going to write this. We're going to say mail to, colon, and then I'm going to put in an email address here. And then I'll go ahead and put an angle bracket here to end this initial HTML tag, or this initial anchor tag, which we can see is a href, and then the email address that I mail to, colon, then the email address that I want to add to. And then I need to actually close the A tag down below where the image tag ends. This is functionally doing the same thing as if I had an anchor tag that was wrapped around some text, but in this case, the image is the thing that's clickable, not the text itself. So we'll save this, we'll go back over here to my Firefox, refresh the page again, and then when I click on this image, it will pull up my email with information about who to mail things to and so on and so forth. So it pulls up an email from me, to me, it's from me because I have my mail app set up, all that kind of thing. Now on your desktop or on your laptop computer that you're using, you may not have a mail client set up like this. A lot of people just use Gmail or just use a browser-based email. No big deal if it pulls up mail and asks you to start configuring things. You just know that you've clicked on an email address and that's working. Okay, let's go ahead and pause that here, and then we will resume in the next video with adding in internal and external links to your page, and we'll continue with adding in lists.